All right, we're gonna do a thing on like why I stopped top-down mixing today. I'm sick as a fucking dog. My throat is fucking draining. My whole mouth is inflamed. So we're gonna need to jump cut here. I'm having a hard time concentrating, so I'm sorry in advance. A lot of jump cuts. I've got some notes here. Let's try to get through this. Top-down mixing has to be one of the most loved techniques in modern music production. Everybody loves top-down mixing. Heck, I'm a huge proponent of it myself. I've been top-down mixing for over a decade in my own career. I love it. I use it all the time. And if you watch any of my videos here on the channel, you've probably seen me do it. So what if I told you that top-down mixing may actually be hurting your progress and limiting your ability to mix? What the Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. What did he just say? What? Yes, you heard me right. I said top-down mixing might actually be limiting your progression as a mixer. So today, you and I are gonna go down that rabbit hole because not too long ago, like 2 months, I stopped top-down mixing because of one conversation I had with somebody, and it changed some things for me and helped me rethink some things. So I want to share this information here with you today and give you some food for thought. So let's dive in first to what is top-down mixing if you're not familiar with it. Top-down mixing is the process of taking a bunch of bus processing and doing it on your final mix bus, right, your 2 bus, and doing that so you have way less processing to do downstream. So for example, you might EQ, you might do different types of saturation on it, you might, do some various types of compression. You're staging a ton of processing on your mix, and as a result, you don't need to go and EQ so much because you've maybe already got like a smiley curve or something like that. You can see that it's a fantastic technique in terms of speed. If you've watched any of my mixing videos here where I'm speed mixing, I use it all the time. So what could possibly be potentially bad about that? Well, I'm going to tell you a story. So let's go down the rabbit hole a bit here. So about 2 months ago, I had a very interesting conversation with my good friend, mastering engineer Maor Applebaum. If you're not familiar with Maor, he is a heavy hitter in the game and he has insane credits, and he has mastered for some of the greatest mix engineers alive on this planet. So I was talking to him, and Maor and I tend to go down these rabbit holes where we chat about, mixing and the philosophy of it, and et cetera, my own attempts to progress in my skills. And we'll do it for hours. And one thing I asked him one day, I said, hey, Maor, I was listening to X, Y, and Z's mixes, and I know you've worked with these mixers, right? So what is the difference between what I'm doing here and what they're doing from your point of view? He paused and he was like, oh, that's a really good question. You hadn't, said to me that you were dissatisfied with what you're doing. But since you asked me that question, and I boil it down to a single thing, I think about, there's one thing to me that stands out that you're not doing versus some of these other greats that I've worked with. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, all right, but, are you going to listen to my feedback? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, look, I'm trying to get better here. I'm trying to progress and progress and progress. Learn, grow, like beat me up, destroy me. I don't care. Like, I'm here to listen. I'm not here to tell you that I know. And he asks me, why do you have all that garbage on your mix bus? Now, a little context here. Every time I send Maor a mix to master, he always makes me send a picture of my 2 bus processing. So, if he hears a problem on a mix, he can identify it and say, hey, take this thing off. Maybe you're oversaturating, overbaking it, etc. So he says to me, look, why are you putting all that stuff on your mix bus? And I'm thinking like, well, it's top-down mixing, Maor. Come on, top-down makes mixing faster. I can start rattling off all the pros of top-down mixing. And he's like, okay, the answer is not good enough. Why are you putting all of that junk on your mix bus? And we went down that rabbit hole, and I couldn't come up with a good enough justification. And he said, okay, so here's the difference. When I get a mix in from this person or that person or that person who you look up to and you think is, it's like the best of the best, they don't have any of that crap on their bus. And I'm like, oh, he's like, they're not top-down mixing. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, all they turn in is the mix, and then maybe there's like a limiter on the very end of it just to get it up to level for a loud reference so everybody knows what the mix sounds like and the band is signed off. On the other hand, you've got all this junk on there. You've got like a linear multi-band, and you've got, max bass and this and that. He's like, why do you have all that stuff on there? I couldn't come up with a good reason. He's like, there's 2 reasons you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And the first reason is that top-down mixing limits your mixes. So picture this, anything that you put on your mix, and say you've got a saturator, right? That saturator is gonna have a sound to it. Maybe it makes your mix sound softer. So if you've taken your mix and you've softened it, you can never go back because it's on everything. on the mix, right? Or if you put a multi-band compressor, right, and it's got a certain plasticky characteristic to the transients, you can't take that layer of plastic, right, that you've put on all of your transients on a mix and undo it. You can't take that off, ever. It affects everything. So the tools that you're putting on your bus processing, you are locking your entire mix into the limitations of these tools. Now, that may be a good thing for you. Like I said, the whole point is to make mixing faster and easier. But I said, look, what I'm trying to do, it's actually getting in my way. I thought about it. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And he said this to me, and this is the second thing, and this is the one that really stuck with me. He said, not only are you putting yourself into a box of limitations that you can't break through, you know, in terms of processing, but it's killing your microdynamics. And I'm like, oh, wait, what? It is? And he's like, yeah. He's like, why don't you try doing this? He's like, zoom out for a second. Take all that crap and throw it in the garbage bin on your tube bus. And then go back and try to get it on a track level, right? So for example, if you want to add max bass, right? And you want to add like what it adds to the low end, try getting your bass and your bottom end movement and energy to be that big, right? Without that plugin on your chain. Or if you have a multi-band compressor, right? Try to get your EQ better and your dynamics processing better on the way to the mix bus. And he said, you're going to get a result where you're going to have more microdynamics, more movement, and better energy in your mixes without all that crap. If you can achieve the same size as how you're getting it via top down. And I went, wow, that's really interesting. I've never heard somebody say that, and I've never heard anybody argue that before. So I said, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to relearn how to mix in the next 2 days. And then I did. And sure enough, in my own experience, I found that I suddenly started getting even better results. And he was right. I'm getting a little bit more movement, better microdynamics, better energy out of my mix, better impact, right? All of these things helped me step up my mix game a little bit by simply making one adjustment. So I want you to ponder that for a second. If you're top-down mixing, which again, there's a lot of reasons you want to top-down mix and a lot of places that it makes a lot of sense to top-down mix. But the cons are you're putting yourself into a box and you're limiting your microdynamics. Meaning if you can get the same results at a track level that you're getting at a top-down level, you're gonna have a much better sounding, more powerful mix. I had a video on the different levels of mixing and how mixing is not just like a static philosophy, okay? You know, the skill set and the mindset that you need to get, say, from like a level, like a video game, right? Like level 0 to 20 is going to be different what takes you from 20 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 80, 80 to 100, 100 to 110. You know what I mean? Like every time you play the game, you're going to work hard. You're going to progress to a certain point. You're going to get stuck at that level. You're going to try a bunch of different things. And then finally, when it feels like all hope is lost, you're going to jump up to another level. Okay. And you're going to run into the same problem. You get stuck, boom, you're going to jump up to another level. The point is that at different parts of your career, you need different approaches and different mindsets. And for me and mine, and maybe for you and yours, top-down mixing was working great and it was improving my mixes. But then I got to a point where it started getting in a way and it was hindering my mixes. You see the difference? It's a philosophical thing. And I know we like to get excited here on YouTube about like the one trick that'll give you pro mixes, parallel compression, you know, and things like that. But this is the kind of stuff that makes a really massive improvement in the quality of your work, the philosophical stuff. It's not as exciting to watch. It's not as clickbaity, but this is the stuff that really matters. So top-down mixing may, depending on where you are, help you get better mixes. But there's going to be a point, maybe, maybe not, but there could be a point where it's actually getting in your way. So that concludes this little mini rant here on top-down mixing. Let me know in the comments if you like top-down mixing or you're against it. Either way, you're not right or wrong. The point is that at certain points, it makes sense to do both. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoy this type of content here, give me a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We are going to be back here in the turn of the new year in 2024 with some new mixing videos and lots of good, fun stuff. So thank you so much for watching. And of course, if you want to learn how to mix, head over to nailthemix.com. Happy mixing, everybody, and happy holidays.